It's pretty nerve-wracking to drive with a new driver when they have their learner's permit. It's a little more nerve-wracking to send that child off in their own once they get their driver's license. Driving a car really is a really big responsibility, and there are many things that can go wrong as they are driving. Now, don't get me wrong, having a child, a teenager, able to drive themselves around is one of my favorite milestones that they reach. It's something I looked forward to before my first child ever did it. It was everything I dreamed it would be, but still, there are concerns. For that reason, when our oldest child was approaching the age of being able to drive on his own, we decided to have a driving contract. In this video, we will talk about why it's a good idea to have a driving contract and what you want to include in that contract. But first, hello, my name is Valerie. I blog at babywisemom.com and I have been blogging there since the year 2007. I have 4 children who currently range in age from 12 to 19 years old. I have 2 drivers and 1 who has her learner's permit. You might wonder why bother having a driving contract, and you might even worry if you have a really responsible child who's starting to drive. You might worry that presenting a contract to sign before driving might seem a little offensive. If your child's always really worked to be like super responsible and reliable and dependable and careful, you might worry that they're going to look at that as like, don't you trust me? So let's talk about why you want to have a driving contract, even if your child is super reliable and responsible. So experts share that people and children respond really well when they know what is expected of them. And studies show that children or teens are highly more likely to try drugs or alcohol if their parents have never told them, we're not okay with you using drugs or alcohol. If that's never been a discussion, a higher percentage of those teens try it than the teens whose parents have said, we do not want you using drugs or alcohol. So just sharing the expectations can really change the behavior. When they don't really know what your stance is, like you might think like they can assume, they should assume, but remember we're talking about people whose brains aren't fully developed yet. So like, yeah, logically, like, yeah, they probably should assume that you're not okay with that. But if you haven't said it, they don't know that you're not okay with that. And they can very easily slip into peer pressure or the excitement of the moment and justify things away when they haven't been told. If they've been told, like, they know what's okay, what's not okay, what's expected, what's not expected. So a contract for driving really lays out all of those expectations. Like there's nothing ambiguous. Something we adults really have to remember is that there's a lot that we just assume is obvious, and it's not necessarily obvious to our children. They don't just automatically know what they should or shouldn't do. We can't expect them to know things we haven't told them. Like a really simple example may be, don't pick your neighbor's flowers. Like, yeah, that seems pretty obvious that you shouldn't just go onto someone else's property and pick their flowers without asking them first. That's not necessarily obvious to a child. A child just thinks, oh, look at those pretty flowers, I want them, and they go and pick them. Now, if you've explained to your children, like, do not pick the neighbor's flowers, they're far less likely to give that a shot. So having a driving contract just really sets your child up. It sets your child up for success. And that's what we want to do. We want to set our children up for success. They know your expectations. They know the consequences if those expectations are not followed. And it enables you to be able to respond appropriately if they do something that you're not okay with. If you've already outlined, like, these are our expectations, these are our rules, and these are the consequences when those are not followed, then everyone is just on the same page and everyone knows what to expect. It's also really nice because it gets you and your spouse like on the same page. you're probably going to default in many ways into just assuming that the expectations will be the same as they were when you were growing up. It's kind of where we default to, and maybe you'll have some changes. Maybe you'll think like, I didn't like that this was a rule or the way things were done, so I'm doing things differently with my own kids. But if you and your spouse haven't talked about it, then you're not on the same page. And so we definitely respond to our own experience, and you had different experiences. So you want to get on the same page about what your rules are going to be, like what the finance situation is going to be surrounding the vehicle. This just helps the whole family be on the same page, and that's always a good thing. It also really helps your kids to be able to use you as a scapegoat very easily. When you've gone through everything and you have this everything outlined, all your expectations there, if they, like, say your child is someone who does like to follow the rules and they have a friend get in the car who doesn't want to wear their seatbelt, and they're like, I don't need to wear my seatbelt, it's fine. But you've explicitly said that, like in your contract, it's every passenger in that vehicle has to wear a seatbelt when you're driving or you lose your keys. Then they can say to their friend, like, look, I get it, you don't want to wear your seatbelt, but if you don't and my parents find out, then I lose my keys. And I don't want to lose my keys, so put your seatbelt on. So, like, even if your child wouldn't necessarily want to drive someone without wearing their seatbelt, like, they don't have to be the one that's like, no, wear your seatbelt. I told you to wear your seatbelt. Instead, they blame you, which is great. I am always happy to be the scapegoat for my kids. And when we've had this contract written up, like, they can easily turn to that. I signed this contract with my parents, like, you gotta wear your seatbelt. All right, let's talk about good things to have in your contract. I have the contract that we had Braden sign, and I do have this as a free printable on my website. So if you would like to have this for free, you can absolutely use it for your own, so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. But let's talk about things that are a good idea to have. So I have a few different categories on here. The first one is obeying the law. So I have, like, I will always have my driver's license. I will always have my car registration. I'll have my insurance card with me. On here, I will never drive if I have consumed any alcohol nor taken any type of drug. I will never be a passenger if the driver is under the influence of any substance. So this is just, we're getting it all out there. Like, this is the clear expectation. These are the rules. This is what is expected of you. I will not allow drugs or alcohol in my vehicle. I will always wear my seatbelt. I will follow all traffic laws and follow the posted speed limit. I will not use my cell phone while driving. If I feel the need to use my phone, I'll pull over before using it. Talk about restitution. If I get a traffic ticket, I agree to pay for the ticket. So this is very clear. Like, if you decide to break the first part of the contract and you're speeding, you're choosing to speed, then you're choosing to take that risk of getting a ticket. And if you do get a ticket, you're the one paying for it. Like, we are not paying for your traffic ticket. And also, I will pay the difference in the insurance premium increase for that ticket. You may have your child pay for 100% of their car insurance anyway, but if not, then that's a great thing to have in there. Like, then that helps someone. They probably don't even know if you get a ticket that your insurance goes up. So, like, outlining all of that for them helps them, like, think twice when they want to speed. Like, oh, do I really want to risk that? Probably not. Also, in our restitution category, if I'm responsible for the accident, I will pay the full cost for damages not covered by the insurance, as well as the difference in insurance premiums. Making it clear out there, like, there's motivation to be careful beyond just, like, that's what mom and dad hope I do. We also have a category for just family rules that we have. One is that you're aware of your curfew and checking on that curfew and that you follow that curfew. Another is that if something's come up and you're going to be late, you let your parents know. Like, in our modern day, there's rarely a reason for your child not to let you know that they're going to be late for their curfew. And, if they're driving and realize they're going to be late, like, they can pull over and send you a text and let you know, like, I'm going to be late. Another rule is, like, my parents know who's in the car with me, and if plans change, I let them know the change of plans. The rule is that you need permission for going out. Like, you don't just get to go. getting a driver's license and having access to a car really brings a lot of freedom to your teenager. And this is a lot of freedom that they need to grow into. Like, just because you have a driver's license doesn't now mean that you get to go where you want, when you want, without asking permission. Like, you still need, just because you don't need a ride anymore doesn't mean that you don't need permission still to go places and do things. You still need to check in. And as your teenager gets older, that may loosen a bit. You want them to grow into that responsibility. You don't want to say, oh, now that you have a driver's license, you can now go wherever you, whenever, without letting me know and without asking permission. So you want them to still be asking permission, especially when they initially get their driver's license. Another rule that we have is that you adjust your mirrors before you start driving. And I'm sure a lot of adults are guilty of not doing this, but the safest thing to do is have them adjusted before you start moving. If you're adjusting them while you're driving, you're introducing a lot of risk. So I have a rule that they will be willing to do their best to help drive siblings when needed. So, I mean, that's a great benefit to somebody else getting a driver's license, is having another driver to help get siblings to places they need to go. So just having that clear within the rules, it just helps them, like, yeah, I don't just now have a driver's license and now I'm off doing whatever I want, whenever I want. Like, this is now an opportunity for you to help serve the family. And, you know, as parents, we don't want to, like, take advantage of that and turn them into our, like, personal drivers all the time. I mean, maybe sometimes we want to, but we shouldn't. We should, you know, respect their time also. This in the contract, like, my kids have always been just very happy when I've asked them to help out and drive someone somewhere. They just, yeah, absolutely. We have a rule that you don't race your car, you don't race people. We also have a rule, no earbuds while you're driving. Like, having the earbuds in can diminish your ability to hear other things going on. It's important to be able to hear what as much as you can. So just no earbuds. Also have a rule that no one else can drive your car without permission of the parents. So if there's someone who wants to be driving your car for some reason, they need to check in with mom and dad first before doing so. And we do have a clause, like, that is barring some emergency. So let's say your child had a medical emergency and can't drive and they're unconscious, then, like, yeah, the friend can drive the car as needed. We also have a rule that you need to check in before you drive someone else's car. And it's just smart because you don't know what your insurance, like, they don't know exactly what your insurance covers, what the other person's insurance covers. So you just want to be careful. Like, you don't want to be stuck with, like, a really big bill if insurance isn't covering some kind of accident that could happen from driving someone else's vehicle or someone else driving your vehicle. We also have a rule that responsibilities still need to be fulfilled at home. If you're going to be driving, you need to still be fulfilling the responsibilities at home, and also that good grades need to be maintained in order to drive. We also have rules for the passengers of the vehicle. One is they have to be wearing their seatbelts. Another is they need to keep the car, like, the passengers of the car, like, under control so that they can drive safely. So, I mean, seatbelts help with that. People are, like, staying in their seats. But, like, if things are getting so loud and distracting that they can't focus, like, they need to let friends know. Like, hey, sorry, can you guys just be quiet? I can't really focus or something. Like, we just want them to understand, like, they, as a driver, are responsible for keeping everyone in that car safe. So if you're taking on the responsibility of driving, you have to take on the responsibility of just making sure that, like, understand this is a big step. Like, you're taking people's lives into your hands as you're driving, and you need to respect that responsibility and use it wisely. I also have a section for the maintenance of the car. So, like, you're responsible for keeping the car clean inside and out, and you can define, like, what that means, like, to you. Like, does that mean, like, how often does the car need to be vacuumed? How often does the car need to be washed? And that's going to vary from person to person. Just make sure everyone's on the same standard level so that we all have the same expectations in the house. We also have a rule that you're responsible for filling the car up with gas. I think that's your job. And to not let the gas tank get too empty. We say that the car needs to maintain above a quarter tank of gas. That just helps, like, avoid some, like, oh my goodness, I just ran out of gas, can you come rescue me situation. So, you know, you can decide, like, what you think is reasonable as far as where the gas tank needs to be. It's good to just have that expectation. And it's not a bad practice to keep too, even as adults. And then we also have like, you're responsible to let your parents know if the car's making weird sounds or like it's suddenly difficult to turn or things, which, that seems obvious, right? Like if something seems wrong with the car, you should let your parents know, but we want to avoid like assumptions. Assumptions don't usually work out well. We also include like safe passage, like if you cannot drive for any reason or feel unsafe driving, let us know, we will come get you. And that can be for they have made a poor choice and have consumed alcohol or drugs and know they can't drive safely. It also can just be like, wow, it snowed and I don't actually feel comfortable driving in the snow. Like just knowing like that's out there, like yes, if you feel uncomfortable driving, whether it's your own condition, whether it's the weather conditions, maybe like for some reason there's like crazy traffic they don't want to drive in, like yes, we will come get you. And that is something that we have stated between the two of us, so they don't feel like they need to push it. They don't need to push themselves and like, I gotta just drive home. I don't want to annoy them. Like, they're new drivers. There are adults who live in areas of the world where it doesn't snow, and when it snows, like they struggle driving. There are adults who live in areas where it snows every single year, and at the first snowfall every year, those adults make really bad choices driving on the road and cause accidents. So, like, a brand new driver is not going to necessarily and probably will not feel comfortable driving in bad weather. They just need to know, like, if you're just not feeling good about it, we will come get you. We also have a section on consequences that just states like, if you break rules, there will be consequences. And within that, we say the consequences will depend on, it's going to be a case-by-case situation, but do expect that oftentimes that will include loss of driving privileges. Last but not least, we have a section on gas money. That's a good thing to have out there. So for us, we will give you X amount of gas money each week. And if we ask you to drive siblings places, then we cover that gas cost. And if you need more gas money than that, then that's up to you. And that's just like a family by family call. Some people, their child pays for 100% of the gas. Some people, they pay for 100% of the gas. So like you just decide what makes the most sense for your family. There are pros and cons to all the different things. So you just decide what you guys want to do. Having a driving contract just really helps your child understand that driving is a privilege, it isn't a right, and it helps them, they know what your expectations are, you know what your expectations are, and everyone's on the same page. Once again, if you would like a free copy of my driving contract, head to my website, babywisemom.com, and you can get your own copy absolutely for free, no strings attached. You can tweak it and amend it. You can add rules, delete rules, change rules, however you need to. As always, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments and I will answer you. And thanks for watching and have a great day.